everyone, and welcome to Gandhia School of Education. I'm Dr. Sonia Kaur Bansal, and today my topic is checklist and rating scale in the subject methodology of educational research. So, students, let's study about checklist and rating scale. And the learning objective of my today's class is to enable you about grasping and comprehending the concept of checklist and rating scale as what they are. We will be understanding it through definitions and with some examples. And we are also going to see the characteristics and types of checklist and rating scale. So I hope you will be learning and there will be a good learning outcome after the class, and you will be able to apply your concept of checklist and rating scale in your research work. As well, you will be able to use the characteristics and types of checklist and rating scale according to your research work. So good research aptitude development is expected from all of you students. So let's understand about checklist and rating scale in today's topic. Now, first of all, let's understand about observation checklist. So what is checklist? Let's understand it. And it is most commonly used instrument for performance of evaluation. So when we have completed something or when we want to check something on the basis of performance, we are going to use the checklist. So checklist actually enables a researcher or observer to note to only whether a trait is present or not. We are going to research a particular trait, particular thing in a object or a person. So we are going to check it is there or not. Presence is actually seen. So if consists of a listening of steps, activities or behaviors, the observer records when an incident occurs. So you can observe a particular situation as well and listening of steps also, and activities and behaviors of the observer's records when an incident occurs. So the observer has to judge a certain behavior that has taken a place in a particular time period. So checklist. So check means to just keep a check. So that it means. So now we are going to define the checklist word, what it is and how it works in research work. So a checklist is a simple instrument, students, consisting prepared list of expected items of performance or attributes which are checked by an evaluator for the presence or absence. It means you are giving a particular task to your students, for example, or you have just made a checklist on the basis of their performance, they have done it or not done. You decide some dimensions or parameters, and on the basis of that, you just tick that right or wrong or correct, incorrect, yes or no. So evaluation is done on the basis of components presence or absence. So students, checklists are constructed by breaking up performance and quality of a product. For example, if you are judging a dance competition, you are required to make a checklist to evaluate that. Maybe it is a solo dance, maybe it is a group dance. So performance quality will be judged on its performance. So how it is going to be happen on the stage, you are going to include some parameters such as effect, properties used, song particular used, and any aid or any material that is used we can include in props, and costumes, expressions. So these are some parameters you are going to include in your checklist when you are going to evaluate the dance performance of some candidates. So it means it specifies the presence or absence of a particular trait, attribute that is then which is then checked by the traitor or the observer. So it is a very important tool for the researchers if they want to see that the particular variable is presented or present or absent in particular situation. Now let's have a look on the characteristics of checklist. So students, observe one respondent at one time. It means you're not going to check so many respondents or so many units at one time. Checklist actually focuses on one respondent at a one time. Suppose there are 30 students in your class. You're not going to check them all together. Checklist main characteristic focuses on the this important point, that observe one respondent, one student at one time. Then clearly specify the characteristics of the behavior to the observer. It is very important that what type of behavior you are going to observe during your checklist, so that your checklist is very much defined and it should not go beyond that. It means you are not distracting yourself beyond the topic and beyond the parameters what you have chosen. You are stick to your particular behavior which you are going to check through the checklist. So use only carefully prepared checklist to avoid more complex traits. It is expected from an observer that when the observer is preparing the checklist, then only important things are to be covered. Important points are to be covered for avoiding complex traits in the situation. So just make it sure that you are preparing it very carefully. The observer should be trained how to observe. Yes, this is not an easy task, students, that how to record the observed behavior. So it is very important for an observer to observe the candidates, observe the respondents in a very trained and professional manner. Recording of the observed behavior is must. If you are checking particular points in your respondents, then after observing, it is expected from the observer to record that behavior. Now that makes a point how the observer is recording that behavior. So use checklist only when you are interested in calculating in particular characteristics. Only then use checklist. So you are calculating some of the traits, either they are present in a person or in a situation, or they are absent. You're just making the checklist. Now let's see, students, procedures testing checklist. Now this is the sample checklist in front of you. Now this is related to some startup procedures. Now there are some 10 questions. You can see on my screen that there are some 10 questions which are framed in a checklist, and very left side serial numbers are given, and in second column checkpoint or defect statements are given. So this is actually framing the checkpoints. So what I'm going to check, what I'm going to particularly see. So as I told you, be very particular when you choose the criteria. And then extreme right, we are checking marking given. So appropriate column is made for what you have seen. So there are again subdivided two columns, yes, and secondly, not applicable. So in that, students, like see the examples, how we have framed it, whether startup procedures have been validated, whether, now you can see that these questions can be given, answers can be given in yes or not applicable. And simply after completing that, you are going to see the presence or absent of procedures testing. Then whether query procedures have been validated, whether file mounting procedures have been validated, whether updating procedures have been validated, whether backup procedures have been validated, whether offsite storage procedures have been validated, whether recovery procedures have been validated, whether terminal operating procedures have been validated, whether procedures needed to operate the terminal when the main computer is down have been validated. So, say students, these are all the statements which an observer is going to observe through a checklist. And simply the observer is going to keep a proper record by maintaining yes or not applicable on the basis of his or her observation. All right, students. Now, construction of a checklist. Now we are going to discuss about the construction of a checklist as how it is made and how should a researcher should prepare it. So express each item in clear and simple language. So it is very important for all of you students. Maybe you are very well versed with the vocabulary of Hindi or English medium, but do not pretend to be very scholastic in framing your checklist. Keep your statement simple and clear and very brief. Your language should be easily understandable by the target people who will fill the checklist, or maybe you are going to record it. So the type of checklist to be used in particular assessment evaluation is must. Just while you are constructing a checklist, make it sure within yourself that for what particular reason I'm going to use this checklist. So that particular assessment must be taken in care when you are evaluating it. It should be valid. For what purpose it is made, it should solve or resolve that purpose only. Next, the list of items in the checklist may be continuous or divided into groups or related items. Sometimes it happens as in the sample I have shown you that checklist was continuous in the form of statements. But maybe sometimes it is happening that checklist is divided into groups of related items. Of one statement, you are giving more and more groups, and now you are checking that. For example, if you are checking an infrastructure of any institution, then you have to make some groups. Maybe you are going to make a group of classrooms, library, then other important facilities. So different groups, you are going to check different things simultaneously. So just be careful about it when you are preparing the checklist. So these list of the items are formulated on the basis of the judgment of experts, and each item is evaluated with respect to the number of favorable and unfavorable responses. So when you have formulated all the statements, or maybe all the questions on the basis of the judgment of experts, so you have prepared a checklist. After getting the checklist done, you will be evaluating the particular favorable and unfavorable responses, and you will be calculating them. So in that way, checklist will be authentic if it is fulfilling your objective. Now, very important thing that you must take care, avoid negative statement whenever possible. Sometimes the researchers are including or observers are including negative statements in their checklist. The respondent is actually not liking the idea of being negative. So positivity always works in a miraculous way So avoid negative in your statements. So next thing, avoid lifting statements verbatim from the text. So there are some statements which can be asked orally, but if you are writing them, write them by using proper grammar. Active or passive form is required to use in that. Ensure that each item has a clear response. Yes or no, true or false. Your statement should not be like that, students, that either none of the option is applied to the statement and the respondent is confused. And moreover, you have not given an option of confused or unclear or not clear. So ensure that each item has a clear response. And for that reason, it is advised to the observer that first fill the checklist to yourself, and then find out the practical problems when you fill them. Only then you just after doing a pilot study of the checklist, you can apply them on your respondents. Okay, so review the items independently. Every item must be seen very clearly, very minutely by the observer. So statements must be clear. Checklist must have a quality of completeness and comprehensiveness. Now, this is very important characteristic, students, while you are constructing a checklist. What you want to observe, what you want to see, of what trait or attribute you want to see the presence or absence in a particular person or particular situation. It should give a complete idea. It should not leave any point. It should be completed. And moreover, when you are preparing checklist, it should be comprehensive. It means it should be understandable. It should not be in a vague or unclear way that the respondent is not understanding. And after receiving responses, the observer must also not feel that the respondent has not given the complete answers. So for that purpose, if you have framed a good, complete and comprehensive checklist, you will not be having any problem, and the problem will not be having from the side of respondents as well as from the side of observer. So this is very important to take care. Now students, let's see advantages of checklist. How the checklist is very useful for a research work or for you students. So let's check it. Now, first of all, a checklist allows inter-individual comparisons. As I have told you, one at a time. So when you are actually checking, when you are observing one respondent at a one time, so your checklist will allow you to compare the different individuals to whom you are observing in a very nice way, because the whole thing you have completed on one respondent, you are shifting to another, and you will be analyzing how they are compared. Then secondly, checklists provide a simple method to record observation. This is the simplest method. You must record your observation accordingly. So great benefit that in a simple form, you can observe many good things, or the presence or absence of a trait or attribute in a person or in an event or incident. Then checklists are adaptable to subject matter areas. Whatever the subject you are teaching students. So whatever is the matter of your subject, content is your subject, either you are from SST, science, mathematics, it is adaptable to all the subjects. So checklist must be prepared very minutely, or even if you are talking about psychological subject, technological subject, even then you have to prepare it very minutely. So the observation is easy to do. So it is easy to adapt. So first thing, it is easy to make the comparison. Second thing, it is simple method to record observation. Third thing, it is adaptable to subject matter areas. Then next thing, it is useful in evaluating learning activities expected to be performed. When you are teaching your students, and now it's the time to perform, and when it is the time for performance, of course it is the time to do evaluation as well. So learning activities are evaluated well in that way, so they are helpful in evaluating procedure work also. Properly prepared checklists allow the observer to constrain the direct attention. So if I have prepared my checklist in a very proper way, it is not going to distract my respondents. And very fast mode, on very fast mode, the respondents are going to give the response. All right. So checklists have objectively to evaluate the characteristics. And it actually decreases the chances of errors also in interpretation. So students, remember, there are many advantages of checklist, and being a good observer, you must use all the checklist in a nice way. Now, after analyzing the advantages of checklist, let's have a look upon the disadvantages of checklist. Checklists don't indicate quality of performance. So the usefulness of checklist is limited. As I have told you that we are going to see only if the trait is present or absent in a particular situation or in a particular person. So you are going to just see the presence or absence in that. But how it is good, how it is bad, to what extent, it is not going to describe you. How much it is useful, to what extent, how much it is not useful, and in what points it is not useful. Checklist is not going to give you that idea. So this is the disadvantage of checklist. Then only a limited component of overall clinical performance can be evaluated. Maybe if I'm going to psychologically guiding someone, so I'm going to find few points. So limited components are covered in checklist. Only the presence or absence of an attribute, behavior, or performance or parameter may be assured. So this is students counted as disadvantage of checklist. So it has limited use in qualitative observations. If you want to see why, how, in what way, then checklist is not going to give you the answers for that. For that, you have to use another tools for the research. But definitely, if you are going to see presence and absence of any attribute, behavior, or performance, then you can be assured for it. So checklists are not easy to prepare. More at disadvantage. We have to see each and everything. And while we were studying about the construction of checklist, I told you that minutely cover all the components. But sometimes on the part of observer, the human error can be done, or maybe by mistake, the observer leaves a component. And that component later on realized to be very important, which was left. So it is not easy to prepare checklist, and it needs very, very careful attention from the part of observer. So this was about checklist, students. We have seen what is checklist, what is checklist advantages, disadvantages, and how should be the checklist constructed. Now we are going to see about rating scale, students. So let's see about rating scale, another useful important tool. First of all, let's discuss what is rating scale. Rating. Rate means to rate how much good it is. In general terms, I'm talking to you when I'm saying I'm rating you A, B, C. So rating is the term used to express opinion or judgment regarding some performances of a person, object, situation, or character. I rate this thing A plus, B plus. So this is something my opinion is working in that related to A or B or C plus concept. So rating is the term used to express opinion or judgment regarding some performance of a person, object, situation, and character. So the rating scale involves qualitative description of a limited number of aspects of a thing or traits of a person. So definitely, if I'm expressing my opinion or judgment about a person, object, situation, or character, then I'm going to give a detailed opinion about it. So it means I'm giving qualitative description. So I'm going to cover the particular aspects of a thing or trait. Good, bad, in what way it is good, in what way it is bad. I'm going to rate them. And overall conclusion, I'm going to rate that particular thing or person or object or situation or character. So this is about rating scales concept, that it is expressing your opinion or judgment. Now let's see definition of rating scale and let's understand it in a more clear way. Rating scale refers to a scale with a set of opinion, which describes varying degree of the dimensions of an attitude or a phenomenon being observed. So if I'm rating something, so I'm preparing some set of opinion, and this set of opinion is actually describing the different dimensions of attitude or the perspective or the environment phenomena which I have observed. Rating of Jaipur city's cleanliness. This is my opinion, and I will be observing and I will be covering all the dimensions which are needed to cover the cleanliness aspect of Jaipur city. Okay, students, I hope you have understood. And now, in the words of Suresh Kumar Sharma, rating scale is a device by which judgment may be qualified or an opinion concerning a trait can be systematized. So, we have scattered opinion. But if I'm using rating scale, then definitely my scattered opinion is systematized. And on what basis it is systematized? It is systematized on the basis of some aspects or some dimensions which I'm going to use. All right, students. Now, a rating scale is a tool in which one person simply checks off another person's level of performance. As a teacher, if I'm giving you rate, if I'm using rating scale on you on the basis of your performance, it could be of 3 point, 5 point, 7 point rating scales. It means if I'm covering 3 point, that means 3 dimensions I'm taking or 3 aspects I'm covering while I'm rating. And as in the same way with 5 points, 5 dimensions, 7 points, 7 dimensions I'm covering. So rating scalars measures how much or how well something happened. So it defines in that way, and then you have to rate that accordingly. When generally quantitative and qualitative terms are used to judge the performance. So a wide variety of attributes may be assessed by using rating scales. So it is very important for all of you to understand about rating scale, students. Now let's understand about types of rating scales. What are the different types of rating scales and how do they work? So mainly we are going to understand about 4 types of rating scale in today's lecture: graphing rating scale, descriptive rating scale, numerical rating scale, comparative rating scale. We're going to see them one by one and let's have a look on that. First of all, we are going to understand about graphic rating scale. Now, what is graphic rating scale, students? All of you know about what is graph. So, in graphical presentation, we actually indicate the performance or any particular attribute of any object or any person or environment on horizontally at various points from lowest to highest on a graph paper. We all are familiar with graph papers, so this is all about graphic rating scale. So in this scale, the performance is printed horizontally at various points from lowest to highest. It includes the numerical points on the scales 1, 2, odd, 10, 20, or many more. So it is anchored by 2 extremes presented to the respondent for the evaluation of a concept or object. Generally, we denote X or Y to some object and then we just rate it graphically. How much lowest and how much highest, and how it is proceeding towards highest, lowest. Is it decreasing? It is increasing. We are going to give a very beautiful graphical presentation of our rates. So this is graphic rating scale. Now just understand that in that way with one example. Performance is assessed along one or more continua with specified intervals. For example, a supervisor of a nurse answers the questions, how would you rate the quality of care this nurse provides to the patients? So, see, we are having the 5 points rating scale, and in 5 points, we are proceeding from low quality to high quality. 1.1 is denoted to very low quality, and then 0.5 is related to very high quality. Then second is low quality, and third is related to neither low quality nor high. Fourth, high quality. Fifth, very high quality. So we are going to assess a supervisor of a nurse answering this question. How would you rate the quality of care this nurse provides to patients? So maybe this work is being done in a weekly based process or maybe daily based process. So if continuation, the nurse category or rating is falling between 3 to 4 or 5, then at the end of month, with graphical presentation, you can know very beautifully that how the nurse performance was going on during the month. Now, let's understand about descriptive rating scale. As the name suggests, it is something describing. So this type of rating scale does not use numbers like we had used earlier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it divides the assessment into a series of verbal phrases to indicate the level of performance. So example is there in front of you in which descriptive phrases or terms assigned to each trait. The rater enters the appropriate phrase after each name to indicate judgment of that person. How is the behavior of a particular person? If as a teacher, I'm going to answer of a particular student, about a particular student, then I would be definitely using this descriptive type of rating scale, where I have given some categories of A, B, C, D, E, and where A is standing for excellent and E is standing for poor. And in middle categories are good, average, below average. So what I think, what is in my opinion, what is my judgment, that I'm going to rate accordingly. Now, let's see, students, about numerical rating scale. So what is numerical rating scale, students? As its number suggests, that you are giving numbers to your description. Whatever you have judged, whatever is your opinion, now you are giving some numbers to it. So it divides the evaluation criteria into a fixed number of points and defines only numbers except at the extremes. So in these scalars, each statement is generally assigned a numerical score ranging from 1 to 10 or even more. Now this is, for example, pain assessment numerical scale. Now I have to rate the pain, and it is a pain assessment numerical scale. You can see on this screen that from 0 to 10, there are some numerical rating scale given to you, and when I'm talking about 0 to 1, so there is no pain, that means no hurt, and the expressions, beautiful expressions, you can say that it is given through smileys on your screen. So you just see, if your rating falls in from 0 to 1, then according to this rating scale, which is representing numerical rating scale, so there is no hurt, that means no pain. Okay. But if your category falls from 1 to 3, so it is falling in category 2. So it is hurting a little bit. But if it is proceeding further, 3, 4, 5, so hurts little more. Now the pain is increasing. Then after 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, and 7. If the categories are like that, 5, 6, or 7, then it is hurting even more. Pain is more increasing now. Then 7, 8, 9 hurts whole lot. It is hurting up. Now you can see the tears are coming in 10th category. So this is something. Now 8th, 9th, and 10th. When you are talking about it, it is going towards worst pain. So 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and 8 to 10. This is numerical type of rating scale that is given to pain assessment numerical scale. In that way, we can create happiness index numerical scale. We can create intelligence adjustment, different type of adjustments. So various things can be observed through numerical rating scale. So all right, students, I hope you have understood this much. Now in next presentation, next slide, I'm going to explain you about comparative rating scale. So now, as the name suggests, students, comparative means we are making some comparison. And the comparison is made when you are having two same background person, object in front of you. But we assume that even being from same background, they are having some qualities of being different from each other. So in this type of rating scale, the rater makes a judgment about a person's attributes by comparing with another similar person. Now see this, please divide 100 points between the following attributes of compact disc players according to the relative importance of each attribute to you. Now you have 100 marks and you have 4 categories of a particular disc player you are having in front of you. You're supposed to buy it. And sound quality, how much point you are going to give it to it. Physical size, brand name, durability. So this is something that you have divided your rating scale into different dimensions. Now you are going to give points to it. You are comparing it. And so on. This is comparison of object A from object B, person A from person B. So we are going to compare. Okay. So I'm going to give my opinion, my judgment about object A and then object B. So comparative rating scale is given. So you are clear with the idea that what thing I'm going to take now. Now, students understand about characteristics of rating scale. What is rating scale? What are the important features of rating scale? So let's understand in some points. First of all, rating scales are value judgments of the attributes of one person by another person. If I'm judging you, I'm giving you some value statements. That means I'm judging you. So it is from one person to another person. Secondly, rating scales are most commonly used tools to carry out structured observations. Structured observation is that observation where you have structured the things from step to step, from point to point. From this point to that point, you are going to observe. This frame to that frame, you are going to observe. So it is a very commonly used tool in research work for the observation. Next, students, rating scales are generally developed to make quantitative judgments about qualitative attributes. As we have seen in numerical presentation, graphical presentation, that there were some numerical presentation, quantitative judgments. And then we have seen descriptive. So we are giving qualitative attributes also. So quantitative judgments are made about qualitative attributes. How the pain was assessed, you have seen. How much? So particular category was following how much. And from the beginning, when there was no more pain, at the last, it was hurting more and more. Okay, so rating scales provide more flexibility to judge the level of performance or presence of attributes among subjects. Now, students, let's see Guilford 1954 characteristics. Guilford has also given some characteristics related to rating scale. So there are basically these characteristics which is shown to you. First one, clarity. It must be constructed using short, concise statements in simple and ambiguous language. The relevance, the statement should be relevant to the phenomena and should be exactly in accordance with the variables under study. Variety. Yes, monotony of the statements must be avoided, students, when you are rating something. And variety and difference statements must be ensured. Objectivity. It must be objective in its nature, students, so that it is convenient for the rater to judge the attributes and performances of the subjects under study. Then uniqueness. Each statement constructed must be unique in itself so that the attributors can be judged appropriately. So remember, clarity, relevance, variety, objectivity and uniqueness are the important characteristics given by Guilford in 1954 related to rating scale. Now let's discuss the advantages of rating scale. Rating scales are easy to administer students and score the major attributes. What you want to judge. They have a wide range of application in nursing educational evaluation. Graphic rating scale is easier to make and less time consuming, and it is attractive when we look at that also, and the results are very much clear when we look at the graph. Rating can be easy used to a large group. At a large group you can easily use that. Respondents can easily fill your rating scale statement, questionnaire, or anything you prepare in a very refined way. So they are also used for quantitative methods. Assessment of interest and attitudes and personal characteristics is done through rating scale. They are used to evaluate performances, skills, and products outcomes. Rating scales are adaptable students and flexible assessment instruments in the research work. Now, after looking at the advantages, we are going to see some disadvantages also of the rating scale. So it is difficult or dangerous to fix up rating about aspects of an individual. Yes, it is very difficult to frame an opinion because it may be actually affected by a number of reasons. Maybe the person is biased with a particular person and not liking that, so the rating will go accordingly. So really it is a difficult and dangerous to fix up some opinion about an individual, and we need genuine opinion, genuine judgment. So misuse can result in decrease in objectivity. We will lose the objectivity if we are not using it properly. Then there are chances of subjective evaluation. Thus, the scales may become unscientific and unreliable too. So these are the disadvantages of rating scale. Now students, these are some references for your purpose for more study. If you want to study, you can go through my video later on and you can see these references also. These are some net references and these are some journal references. You can go through more about checklist and rating scales. Now let's have a look on MCQs related to rating scale and checklist and about many general questions also. So question 1. What is the name of written records of teacher observation of individual student events and behaviors? So the correct answer is anecdotal records. And secondly, the problems of ensuring valid and reliable performance assessment are most similar to the problems of ensuring valid and reliable assessment for information about items. So matching, multiple choice, short answer, true, false are not the correct options. Essay is the correct answer. Thirdly, knowing the criteria of quality performance before assessment leads to benefits for both teachers and students. Which of the following is not identified as a benefit? So, the correct answer is the time required for teachers to score students' product or processes increases. It is not about students develop a sense of ownership of the rubric or students obtain a sense of focus or structure for their performance or product, or the students obtain an idea of what characteristics make good. So this is something identified, but if we do not identify, not is given in question. So the correct answer is B. Question 4 is related to which of the following is not a commonly used type of rating scale? Anecdotal, descriptive, graphical, numerical. We have just seen that descriptive, graphical, and numerical are commonly used type of rating scale, but anecdotals are not commonly used. Question 5th, what is the basic difference between checklist and rating scale? So, option A, the way in which performance criteria are stated. The number of behaviors observed, the type of performance each can be used to assess, or the way performance is scored, the age level of students with which each can be used. So the basic difference between checklist and rating scale is that students, the way performance is scored. We have seen in checklist, we had seen either a particular trait or attribute is present or absent in a particular performance. But when we are talking in terms of scoring and giving it quantitative number, so we go towards the rating scale. So this is the basic difference. Nextly, which of the following is considered to be an advantage of portfolio assessment? So time required to collect the processes and products, logistic of collecting and maintaining student portfolios, ability to involve students, time required to score portfolios, ability to score objectives. So the correct answer is the ability to involve students. I hope you have understood well about checklist and rating scale, and here it is about the checklist and rating scale, students. Now we have come at the end of the class, and I'm pretty sure that you are very much benefited with this class and you have learned the different types of checklist and rating scale and you have understood it. So I hope you will just revise the concept and use them in your research work also. So till then, just take care and stay healthy. Thank you, everyone.